welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I am your host, Sandman Shane Sabunia, along with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff. And actually, I should say, welcome to King of Honor Does Pop Culture. Um, we're continuing our series of covering the Warner Brothers simulcast releases on HBO Max, along with their in theaters. And this time around, Jeff, we've got a movie called Arlo Cries in the Background.
It's okay. It's okay. Jacob's cleaning it up.
Uh, what
There's
time?
probably still over
What
half of
time?
it there. There's probably still over half of it in there. You're fine.
So this week we've got a new movie on HBO Max called Judas and the Black Messiah.
I wasn't really keen on it when we first, because I'm not a big docupic type person.
Same.
Um, as I'm watching it, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because I just didn't like the way that they really were portraying the FBI. Like they were making the FBI into this horrible, horrible villain, which kind of didn't sit right with me. So about halfway through the movie, I was like, okay, I need to find out what this is. And I did some research on Fred Hampton and on uh, Hoover and the whole FBI around that time. And ironically, or not, they nailed it. The way that they portrayed Fred Hampton throughout this was exactly the way history recalls him. The way that they portrayed the Rainbow Coalition and the stuff that he went through and the Black Panthers went through was dead on accurate. And the way they portrayed Hoover and the FBI during that time was dead on accurate.
Yep.
I mean, when you go back and you look through history and the way that Hoover looked at Fred Hampton as being this threat, and he like literally there was an FBI agent that reported on Hampton and had talked about the Black Panthers and how they were feeding hungry kids. They were giving free health care. They were very, very supportive of not just the black community, but all minorities, including some of the downtrodden white community and Hispanics and everything. And this FBI agent wrote a letter stating that all this great stuff is happening. He's not a threat. And Hoover, in his mind, had determined that Hampton and the Black Panthers were going to destroy our way of life. And literally wrote back to this guy saying, you might want to change your opinions if you want to ever advance in this organization.
Yeah. What a great guy Hoover was, huh?
I mean, I'm just looking at this like they wanted him off the streets, and his whole thing, like, and first of all, spoiler alert, I of course got to say that the movie just came out on Friday, so if you haven't watched it yet, do so. It's fan. I was pleasantly surprised by the acting. I was surprised by the story because it wasn't something that I've really ever watched or knew about, and if I hadn't done that research. Um, I would maybe have a different view on it, but I enjoyed this, especially Daniel Kaluuya. Oh my God, what an actor he is.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I kind of on the same lines. Like, this is not a movie I normally would have watched. This is not a movie. Well, first of all, I probably ever would have heard of, but
Right,
secondly, it's
right.
probably not a movie that I would have paid any attention to or gone out of my way to see, or probably even like if it was like on a station I was watching, what I that I would have I'm sorry, if I was like flipping through trying to find something to watch, it's not something I would have stopped on.
No, me either.
So I mean, chances are, if we weren't doing these reviews, I never would have seen this movie.
And
Um,
I'm so happy that we are because I mean
yeah.
it was so rough in the beginning. Like I mean rough. Like I fell asleep watching it. It was slow. It was frustrating me
What?
because of the portrayal
Really?
in the first hour, 45
Okay.
minutes to an hour. Yeah,
I didn't
absolutely.
think so at all.
I,
Okay.
I I did, and I ended up falling asleep. And then when I woke up, I was like, I started watching, the remainder of it, and I was like, it just wasn't sitting right. And then after I did the research on it, I enjoyed the last hour of it way more than I thought I was going to. And I have a feeling that if I were to go back now, knowing, then change them. Now knowing what I know, I'd probably look at that first hour completely different as well.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Like
I thought the whole thing was fantastic from start to finish. I did not find anything slow in there at all.
that first hour was kind of, and maybe it was because of my frustration with the way everybody was being portrayed. Because it's, like I said, I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about the history, but I had always in my mind thought, hey, it's the FBI. They're good guys. And they were being portrayed as probably some of the worst villains I've ever seen. Like the fact that they paid an informant to frame another guy and kill him was just mind-boggling to me.
You never had heard of like FBI corruption or anything like that?
Oh no, I mean, you always hear about that with police and FBI and everything. It was just weird. Like I never would have thought that, the FBI would hire an informant to frame somebody just so they could use. I mean, they literally hired him to kill somebody so that he could go to different safe houses across the country and they would find out about it and give them an excuse to raid that safe house.
Yep.
It's
That
just
yeah, that's
mind-boggling to me.
yeah, that I would not have, I had never heard of before either, but it really was kind of an ingenious plan by them, even though it was evil.
Oh, it was, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're
Um,
right. I mean, it was kind of like, oh wow, yeah, but at the same time, like you said, it was just really, really evil, and
yeah,
not what I would have
exactly. And
expected.
yeah, I mean, I thought this movie was phenomenal, and I
Oh
thought,
yeah,
it was, the performances, like you said, by both. I don't know the actors' names, but by the one that played Hampton and the one that played ONeil were
yeah,
both
Lakeith
just
Stanfield.
outstanding.
Lakeith Stanfield is the guy that played uh, Bill O'Neill, and I mean, the stuff at the end when they were talking about, what happened and how things went from there. And Bill O'Neill finally came out, and his portrayal was amazing too because it was conflicted. You could see him buying into Hampton, and then also at the same time feeling like what he's doing is wrong.
Hmm.
And just but then having to go through it because he values his life, and they played that as much as they could to make it to twist him and what he felt was right into doing what they wanted. Um,
Yep.
and and then when they were breaking down everything that happened afterwards, he finally came out in, I guess he worked with the FBI for years after that, stayed an active member at the end of this one where they gave him the gas station and everything. He still worked as an active member of the Black Panthers and as an FBI informant for a few more years after that.
Yeah, which is just mind-boggling.
And then
And I mean, it really does boggle my mind that he knew he was, you
wrong.
know, that he was in the wrong. He knew that he was responsible for the death of Fred Hampton. Those not only the death of Fred Hampton, but I mean, just the chilling thing about, oh, this guy's going to make it, and then they shoot him twice.
Right.
In the back, we see that in, we experience that in the background, but also that they were gunning into that room with no discrimination whatsoever.
Yeah, they didn't care.
You know, they didn't care, and there was the pregnant girlfriend of Hampton in there, and they could easily have killed her and her baby, and they wouldn't have given a
Yeah,
shit.
they
You
didn't
know,
care. They didn't
they
care
they
at
weren't
all.
e- they weren't even people to these FBI agents.
No.
You know,
And not just and that in the Chicago PD at the time too.
right?
Because and then they looked at, I guess, there was a lawsuit that came out about it that they ended up settling 12 years later about based
For
on.
for like 1/40th what they were suing
Exactly,
for,
yeah, and it was against the FBI and the State Department and the Chicago PD for collusion,
and the mayor's office.
and the mayor's office, yeah, for
Yeah.
collusion, and it it, it brought a whole new light to everything, especially after, like I said, after I investigated it and looked around, and I didn't just go to Wikipedia and read that story. I got so involved with the story itself that I ended up studying a lot of different sites about it, and everybody's stories are the same.
Yeah, the only complaint I have about this movie is I had to watch it with subtitles on just because it was so hard at times to understand Fred Hampton's.
I have
Okay.
I have kids, so I watch everything with subtitles on, so it doesn't bother me.
That makes sense.
If
I'm just going to throw that out in the universe, though. So anybody listening to this that, that wants to watch it, I would recommend putting it on with subtitles because otherwise, I think Hampton is very difficult to understand at
and
times, especially when he's giving speeches.
the fact that he was only 21 years old
Yeah, that was mind blowing to me too. Is
to
that he was
have
20 when this happened.
that kind of charisma and that leadership ability at 21 is mind-boggling.
It is, and that presence and that charisma, and and you can understand why this movie is entitled the way that it was. That he,
Hmm.
that he, if it wasn't for you know if it wasn't for this instigation by, or this not instigation, this plot really by the FBI to kill him, and the Chicago government, that he really could have been the Black Messiah.
Exactly, and that, and it makes you wonder. And then even like the Philip Seymour Hoffman lookalike, what was it, Roy, the FBI agent?
Yeah, Nelson.
Yeah, where you could see that, in his conversations and everything, he was actually siding with Hampton as well. But he was just put in a bad position where he had no choice because it was his job.
I don't know. He actually did seem to take quite a bit of pleasure
At times, yeah, but
in making O'Neill conflicted.
yeah,
You know,
but at the same point, you look at it like that's his job. He's being forced to do that, but when you see like some of the private conversations they had, and that whole interrogation that Hoover did on him, and a few other moments throughout where it's like, okay, yeah, he's not as horrible of a guy as we're thinking he was.
that's funny you call him a Philip Seymour Hoffman lookalike. I never would have thought of that, but because but I've seen him on a couple. He was actually one of the one of the supporting actors on Friday Night
Oh,
Lights,
was
and
he?
he was also a supporting actor in the last few seasons of Breaking Bad, and I had seen like in the last couple of years he's actually gotten a couple of Emmy nominations.
Oh, really?
So
But
yeah, so
doesn't he? I mean, not exactly, obviously, but he looks a lot like Philip Seymour Hoffman did at the end of his life.
now he does, yeah. Now because he's like gained weight and he's
Right.
kind of, yeah. I do agree with that, with your assessment. Now that I just said I'm saying I never would have thought of that until you mentioned it.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I liked him. I mean, the top three guys in this movie I really really liked. Daniel Kaluuya, Lakeith Stanfield, and Jesse Plemons. I thought all
yeah.
did fantastic jobs with their roles. I thought all three of them came across. The confliction in all three of them was just amazing. Like, I mean, there were a couple of things.
I honestly did not see any
Confliction in Roy.
position well, I mean, the only time I could say that I did was when they were um talking about that informant that they had going into the other place. And he's like, but that's really like the only time that I really saw the confliction. In any of his dealings with O'Neill, he seemed to really take pleasure in kind of torturing him
You
in a
didn't
way.
see confliction when Hoover was asking him about his 8-month-old daughter?
Yeah, there were two, but what I'm saying is, I felt like you were saying that you thought he was conflicting his interactions with Bill O'Neill, and I
Oh,
never
no,
saw
no,
that.
no, no. His with When he was with Bill, I mean, there were a couple of conversations they had and statements that he made with Bill that were kind of different than the party line. But then at the same time, yeah, he was absolutely doing his job and being the asshole.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, the real conflictions I saw with him were his interactions with Hoover and when he found out about that informant.
Yes. Yep. That I would agree from you, or agree with you on, is that those were conflicting moments for him. But I thought he also just didn't seem to give a shit that he was putting Bill in bad situations.
Right, exactly. And then there was also the thing with Bill O'Neill where he was literally buying into everything Hampton was saying, but taking it to a next level. It was like
Hmm.
he was, yeah, he was an informant, and he was supposed to be playing stuff up, but at the same time, that whole dynamite scene or that C4 scene when he wanted to blow up City Hall,
Yeah.
that scene where it was like, okay, are you doing this because you're trying to frame Hampton, or are you doing this because you're really that out there militant?
I'm pretty sure he was just trying to figure out a way to frame Hampton, and then when he couldn't figure it out, that's when they decided, well, okay, we'll just get the location of the apartment and the blueprint of the apartment, and then we'll just kill him.
Right.
If we
But
get if we can't get him to do something that we can kill him for, we're going to just find a way to kill him
and
regardless.
the worst thing is it actually backfired on them. Killing Hampton actually backfired on him because they turned him into a martyr.
I don't know, man. I mean, the Black Panther movie kind of died for a while after Hampton died, didn't he? Didn't it?
It in Chicago, that chapter, I mean, they still were active, but nowhere near like they were. But they still had, the Rainbow Coalition going on. They were still working together. And then the fact that his son, Fred Hampton Jr., is now the chairperson of the Black Panthers. I they and when you're watching all the stuff with the parades and the speeches and everything, they really turned him into a martyr by killing him.
Okay.
That was a feeling I got anyway.
Well, I mean, you might be right, but at the same time, I don't think that his power as a martyr was as good as was as much as his power would have
Oh
been.
no, absolutely
You
not.
know.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, had he been alive with his charisma and leadership abilities and the messages he was saying, it would have definitely been a whole different thing than what it ended up.
Right.
But at the same time, he did become a martyr.
Yeah. But sometimes even if you think you're going to create a martyr, it's could be better than
What you would have normally had.
than what would have happened, in in your way of thinking.
Right.
Um, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I think people need to, and if you are conflicted like I was in the beginning, just read all the stories. Do some research, get to know what was really happening then, and I think you might enjoy the movie a little bit more. Because I know I did. I certainly did. Once I had the basic knowledge of what was really going on, I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I was originally.
and I loved it from the very beginning. So I mean, I guess I I I understand where you're coming from with it. But I really loved this movie, and it's not a movie like I normally would have paid any attention to.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, even
I highly recommend this movie. And who did you say the guy's name was that played Hampton?
Daniel, I want to say it's pronounced Kaluuya. It's Kaluuya.
Okay, so Daniel Kaluuya, that guy deserves at least an Oscar nomination, if not
Yeah,
the Oscar.
absolutely. Absolutely. I thought and I thought I read somewhere that he was nominated.
I think I did.
Um,
I think I did read that as well. Now that you mention it.
which is funny to me that people are nominated for awards already when movies have literally just started. I, that just blows my mind that people are nominated and possibly winning awards for movies that literally just came out 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's that's weird, isn't it?
But
I
yeah,
wonder. I wonder if maybe if they did like a short screening at the end of 2020s for him to be able to be in this year's awards rather than for next year's.
well, it makes me believe that the people that judge these things and nominate everybody got pre-screens of these movies like 6, 8 months ago, and we're able to actually sit and watch them all before they got released. Because like I said, it just blows my mind that we're looking at awards for movies that have only been out for 2 days.
Right. I'm just what I was saying though is I'm wondering if perhaps um they did like a short like a because sometimes what they'll do with a movie is have it like go for a week or 10 days or something in a theater just so that it qualifies for the award season.
Oh yeah.
I and so maybe this was like the mass release, but they had also previously had a release like in a short run someplace.
Yeah,
Other
possibly.
other than Okay, so it was released at Sundance on February 1st, 2021.
Yeah, so I mean, it's only been out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, Best Supporting Actor, this got the Golden Globes and Screen Actor Guild Awards. So those might have a different award season than like the Oscars would.
Okay.
Because the Oscars are coming up very quickly now, aren't they? Are they normally in February?
Usually, yeah, somewhere in February or March. They're usually in the spring. So I'm guessing then that Lakeith Stanfield is the star if Daniel Kaluuya is the or Kalua or however you pronounce that is the supporting actor.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, this was really about Bill O'Neill. This movie was, and you know, and then the fact that he came out and did an interview where it was kind of like a tell-all interview, and then that interview was released in 1990, and the day it was released, Bill O'Neill killed himself. You just know how conflicted he was.
So it looks like there's a couple of articles I'm seeing that are predicting 2021 Oscars from a couple of days ago. So I'm guessing they're tonight.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe. I suppose there's
Uh,
really nothing else going on tonight.
Oscars 20. Well, there's Takeover Vengeance Day. Oscars
Like I
2021
said, there's really nothing
date.
going on tonight.
Oh, it's April 25th.
Oh, that's right. It is. They are doing Vengeance. I'm so used to takeovers being on Saturdays, I don't even think about them on Sundays.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So yeah,
But
so it looks like January 25th is the date for the Oscars this year.
But
Um,
you guys, if you are listening to this, you enjoy this content, please hit a like button, subscribe button, ring the notification bell, put down the comments if there's any kind of pop culture stuff you want us to take a look at. We've already determined that we're going to watch every one of the movies that gets released on the week that they get released, and so far there's been three, and so far out of those three, there was one that I enjoyed because I thought I was going to. And then there were two that I had absolutely no interest with, and they ended up being just phenomenal movies. So I'm looking forward to the rest of this. I know we're going to get some clunkers coming up here, but I am definitely looking forward to the rest of this. But like I said, hit that like
no,
button.
no, we well, no, no, no. We already got one clunker. It was called Wonder Woman, 1984.
Yeah, but we kind of went into that knowing it was a DC, and it was, it was a movie that I was going to watch regardless. I was pretty much pointing out was that the little things with Denzel and uh, I can Jared Leto, and then this movie would have been two that I probably would have passed on. Um, so the fact that I was able to watch them, I'm very happy about. So um,
I actually, I actually was kind of anticipating you going, okay, we've watched four movies now, and all four of them take place in the past. What the fuck are we doing?
that is true. Yes, we have one. Was it four or was
Because
it three? Oh yeah, the
the
Phoenix
Dark
movie
Phoenix
too.
one too.
Yeah, yeah.
Because just because you because I know that that's been like one of your big complaints has been like all these movies are taking place in the 80s or the 90s. This was actually in the 70s, so
I
I
don't
thought I thought you'd
see
be
no.
bitching about that.
I don't necessarily mind that if they do it right. I think the thing that like Wonder Woman would upset me was the fact that there's no need for that to be in the 80s. That was just done in the 80s for nostalgia purpose. Where
Gotcha.
these movies were like we said, I mean, The Little Things was written in what 1992.
Yeah,
So
and it never would have worked with cell phones.
no, so with the way that the story was, and like you said, cell phones and all that stuff, and the fact that it was written when it was, I'm okay with the fact that they kept it nostalgic like that. It worked out well. It worked out for the story. It worked out for the time the script was written and everything.
Perfect.
And then this one, obviously, it's a docupic. It's going to be whatever time it is.
Right.
Um, so these two, Wonder Woman though, that was ridiculous.
Yeah. That one we cover Tom and Jerry, and that one's set in like in the 70s. That'll be awesome.
Well, it's Tom and Jerry. It's going to be a cartoon for crying out loud.
Anyways, we'll see.
So, oh yeah, and be sure to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. So I'm going to be updating some tier pricing and stuff like that here in the next couple of days that are going to be a lot more favorable for everybody involved. And we'll talk more about that in what, about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, when we
Yeah,
come
10
back
minutes or
with
so.
our
Yep.
with our wrestling weekend wrestling podcast that we do every Sunday morning. So stick around for that. That's going to be interesting. There is a ton going on, especially with NJPW. So
And remember, for the next 10 minutes, it's never goodbye. It's just till next time.
jackass. See you in a bit.